Hi, guys, and welcome back to
Built-in Besties, a dad
and daughter podcast. So today we had a very special guest on the podcast, Marla Dakin, and she is a anxiety and kind of mental health specialist. And so it was so fun to have her on the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you're watching this, but it was amazing to have her. We had a really good conversation, and we hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, this was our first guest, one of many, hopefully. But again, thank you so much, Marla. One thing we didn't do, and right before we go into this interview, we're just going to do it. We did Candle of the Week. We haven't done Candle of the Week. Can I read it?
Yes.
It says, your best friend be like, you're doing great, babe. Life is tough, girl, but so are you. Your unique glow is what the universe craves. Babe, you sparkle. Shine bright like the optimistic goddess you were born to be. Take some time for yourself and reflect on all your unique blessings, XO. This goes really well with all of our conversations that we had with Marla and dealing with anxiety and other mental health issues in the teen space, social media, all of that. We really hope you guys enjoy the interview. Please like, subscribe, and go to Marla's social medias and her website also. There's a ton of good resources within this space. This also applies to adults too. Anxiety is not unique to children. While she specializes in that, it applies to adults too. So go check it out, guys. She was great. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy the show.
Have fun. Welcome back. We have our special guest here, Marla Dakin.
Marla is a licensed social worker and therapist specializing with teens, anxiety, teen mental health issues, and helping parents navigate through all those challenges also. Marla, thank you so much for being with us. You're our first guest on the Built-in Besties podcast, and we're super excited.
I'm so excited to be here and to be part of your podcast. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. First off, why don't you tell us where anyone can find you?
Okay, so you can find me. I have a brick and mortar private practice. It's called Farmington Valley Counseling Center. So you can find us online at fvcounseling.com. And you can find me on Instagram mostly at Marla Dakin. So that's a great way to connect. I love speaking with people online and on the website, and would love to connect.
Awesome. Your videos are fantastic. There's a lot of those on there.
Thank you.
We have seen you in our local schools. You'll come in, you'll do some chats with families, parent seminars and such that are all super helpful. And I discovered your website also with your Say This, Not That cheat sheet that you have. Do you want to dive into that? Because it's been super helpful for us. And if you can just maybe tell people what that is, where they can get that, how they can get that, and then we can talk about how we actually kind of implement that here too also.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I forgot to mention, you can also find me at marladakin.com. I created that checklist as just a helpful, quick and easy tool for parents, because when we are in moments of heightened anxiety or stress or frustration, or when we're seeing our kids in pain, we're often instinctively using language that's not always the most helpful. So, as an example, and I call it like my mama bear instinct, when I see one of my kids in pain or struggling, what we want to do is hop in there and get them out of that pain as quickly as possible, because it is just so hard for us to see our kids struggling. Here's the problem with that. We often will say things to reassure our kids in that moment, like, don't be scared, or everything's going to be fine, don't worry. And while it comes from this place of deep love and wanting to be helpful, those kind of statements often make it harder for our kids. They can inadvertently, they can invalidate our kids' feelings. So as an example, if we say, hey, don't be scared, it's like, wait a minute. On the receiving end of that, your child may start to think things like, wait, is there something wrong with me? Because I really am feeling scared right now. That's one example. And Instead, we want to shift our language to validate the feeling. Like, it's okay. Of course, you're scared right now. One of my favorite things to say when it comes to anxiety, because I do a lot of work, as you know, in the area of anxiety, is when kids are saying, I'm feeling really worried or I'm feeling really anxious. One of the best things that you can say is, of course you are. Like, how could you not? How could you not be feeling anxious right now in this moment? Whether it's starting a new team or starting at a new school or meeting a new friend group or whatever it is, taking a test that feels really, really hard. Of course. And just by merely acknowledging, it's so incredibly helpful and validating.
I love that.
So,
Yes.
Do
yeah.
you,
What do you?
how do you feel about that? I guess because you're really the demographic that we're talking about here. So how does that make you feel? What is the difference for you between me saying you don't need to be scared or something like that, and instead saying it's okay to be scared, and then going from there?
I think the difference with that is that you feel really validated when you say it's okay to be scared, but really if you say like don't be scared, then that's kind of like pushing your feelings to the back of the closet and not thinking
Yeah, like
about them.
stuffing them,
Mhm.
right? Stuffing them down.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's great.
I would like to also add, we as adults can really relate to this as well. I mean, think about a time when you have vented or just you're in a state of frustration or overwhelm, and something happened at work or something happened with a friend, and you go tell your significant other or a friend, and you just like let it all out there. And if the first thing they do is say, hey, have you tried this? Oh, I know what you should do. And it's like in that moment, you don't want solutions.
Yeah.
You just want someone to look at you and say, wow, that's really hard. That's it. And I've been in that position, and it's like you can say, actually, I'm just letting it out right now. I
Yeah.
don't need you to fix this for me.
Mhm.
Sometimes I will find myself, especially with my employees, sometimes they'll come and they'll vent to me. I say sometimes, but it's a lot of times, right? And I will ask them, are you looking for solutions? Or are you just looking to vent
Yeah.
and validate how you're feeling at this point? And it's
Right.
made it a huge difference, right? I
Yeah.
think sometimes, like you said at the beginning, we all just want to fix things. We
Yeah.
don't want other people to
To be
feel
upset.
upset or to
Right.
feel like what they're doing is wrong or that something is too hard for them to bear, right? So maybe it's kind of selfish, maybe in a way,
Yeah.
that we think that
Yeah.
we can make someone else feel
Mhm.
better, right? And that's
Right. Well, and I will often say, you know what? I'm a fantastic problem solver. Like I can see things, I can feel, I'm really good at that. And that's a good thing to have. But when it comes to our kids, if we hop in and try to solve problems for them, we're actually robbing them of an opportunity to build really critical, essential skills,
Mhm.
which is independent problem solving.
yep,
So, speaking of language again, one of the things that is so incredibly helpful, if it could be a colleague, it could be, one of your employees, it could be your child. If they're coming to you with a problem, instead of hopping in and offering solutions, one of the very best things you can do is use this phrase. Hey, is there anything that I can do to support you?
I
That's
love
it.
that. Yeah,
And it's great because sometimes it will cause the person on the other end to stop and reflect and think, is there anything right now in this moment that my dad can do? Or is there anything my mom can do?
Mhm.
Is there anything my friend can do? And a lot of times it's like, no, just the thing you can do is be there, be a stable, supportive presence. That's it.
And even if
Absolutely.
you're not saying anything, if you're still just in the room with your presence, that can still help a lot of people out.
So true. That's a great point, Jackie.
Thank
I
you.
love that.
Yeah.
So kind of on the same lines, one of my questions, I love that we're in an age of bringing awareness to teen anxiety, to all of mental health in general. I think that the stigma of
Yeah.
this has been reduced substantially.
Mhm.
Um, One of my questions, I guess, so we talk about self-care very often. We talk about self-care. We talk about needing to find coping mechanisms to manage our stress, all of that. How do you balance self-care with resiliency, right? So how do I still, if I have to get something done, or if Jacqueline
Yep.
has to get something done, she's in a very much a I hate school attitude right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but she still knows there are things that she has to get done. She'll
Yeah.
ask me every single day, can she stay home from school?
Yeah.
She needs a mental health day or such. And sometimes
Yeah.
I do understand that, right? Maybe that's
Yeah.
just a 1 hour difference of not going to school. But how do you balance resiliency with the need for self-care and taking care of your needs outside of that?
Right. I think this is such a great question because one of the things that we're really, really trying to build with our teens and with ourselves truly is this resiliency, this ability to bounce back from struggles, to push through adversity, to do the hard things. And there are non negotiables. We have to get to school, we have to pass, we had to get through high school, middle school. There are steps in this journey, and a lot of it is about mindset, looking at where you are and where you would like to be. And often, I know it's a ways away, but I love to encourage kids to think about the end goal. Like for many, it's college or a career or a job, or what's the reason that you're pushing through the tough stuff?
June
All of
11th.
us need that. What'd you say?
June 11th.
June
I
11th,
think that's the
right?
last day of school. Yeah.
I know. I work in town. This comes up very often.
Mhm.
So again, knowing you're not alone in that and to acknowledge that it's hard. Like the social stuff can be hard, the academic stuff can be hard, the all of it. But on June 11th, you will be in a new chapter. And all the hard work that you've put in and will eventually pay off for you in the long run. I think our kids need to see the point and the purpose behind this. And I think we too, self-care is huge. We have to tap into our stress levels and recognize when we're overwhelmed or going through a tough time and giving ourselves some love and support and doing what we need to do for ourselves in order to persist through the challenge and the struggles and the hard times. And it can be something really small. Like self care doesn't have to be a day long retreat at the spa or even a whole day off from school. I mean, not that those things are bad, right? Every now and then we all need a little extra. But it could be, this day is feeling really hard. I'm going to push through and get there, but knowing at the end of the day, maybe we'll have some special time together. Maybe we'll go for a walk or watch a show together and just carve out something that on the end of it, it makes it worthwhile.
Mhm.
How does that sound to you? Does
Self-care.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you then stay motivated, like yourself, when you are going through these times of not really wanting to go to school, maybe just struggling, right? Struggling. Why do I have to do this every day? You're so close to the finish line at this point, but
Yeah.
how do you then stay motivated? How do you, because I've heard you say sometimes, I just don't care anymore, right? But I know that that's not true because of your personality type. So what do you do? What strategies do you have to try to stay motivated?
There's this website called Time Is, and it's a
Mhm.
clock, and I watch the seconds go by in a class period until it's over.
That can't be
Interesting.
entirely true.
No, it really is. It's always open.
Really? So you just watch. Sometimes I find if we're watching the time go by or keeping an eye close on the clock, it seems to go slower.
For
Do you
me, it
have
goes
that
faster.
experience? Really
For me, it
interesting.
goes faster because I can see it actually happening. Like, I'm not sitting there being like, when is this bell gonna ring? Like, I can actually like visualize it and
Yeah.
see what's like happening.
Yeah. That's an interesting strategy. I will say one of mine, something that works really well for me if I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling stressed out, is getting into an activity and really consciously, mindfully being present in the moment. So let's say we're in a classroom, knowing, like, really attending to what's happening. Or sometimes, I mean, classrooms are a fantastic place to look around and see what everybody else is
Mm-hmm.
up to. There's always something interesting going on.
Yes. There's always a poster on the wall that you could read.
There's always a poster on the wall.
Except for during testing when they're all covered.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Did you finish your testing?
Did.
Yeah.
3
It's one of
hours
those.
for like 7 days, but we did it.
You
You
did
made it
it.
through.
You got through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those things. Sometimes I also, do you know the strategy of Zentangle or mindful doodling?
Mm-hmm.
That's another one that I use. Sometimes if I'm in a meeting, I'll just pull that out.
Oh, what is that? Just like doodling on a piece of paper? Is that as simple
Yeah.
as that?
It's as simple as that. And there's
Interesting.
there's different ways to do it. I've recently gotten into something called neurographic art, where like you'll do lines and then they cross the lines, and then you soften anywhere there's a cross, you kind of soften the space in between. Um, the thing with anxiety and stress and things like that, when we tap into that right side of our brain, the creative space, it is one of the simplest, easiest antidotes for anxiety, is getting into creativity, because it moves us from that left side, the logical part of our brain, into this right side that's creative and artistic and engaging. Music does that, art does that. And they're really lovely ways to shift from a place of anxiety. Because if we talk about anxiety, and I'm curious for you, Jackie, to think on this, if this resonates, if it makes sense to you. When we are anxious, we are typically thinking about something that happened in the past and overthinking and like, oh, I wish I didn't say that. Oh, I wish that didn't happen. Or was that embarrassing? And like our brain is like in this past place,
Mm-hmm.
or it's in this forward thinking place where I hope that doesn't happen. Oh my goodness, what is this going to be? And like we're thinking ahead. But if we can bring ourselves to this present
And kind of stay in the
moment,
moment. Yeah.
in the moment, this grounded place, there the anxiety dissipates because we're here and we're in the now.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Going back to what you said about the like Zentangle things, personally, I've found that I like that if I'm feeling something, I'll write it down and then I'll just scribble it out and I'll keep writing and writing and then I'll just scribble it out. Or I'll make it into something. Or like I like to do where you'll just draw random dots and you'll connect them and see what they end up forming.
Yes. Yes. These are great strategies. And
Yeah.
the reason I love them so much is you can use them anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
anytime. No, people sometimes don't even know you're using them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel yourself, like Marla was just talking about, whether it's the fear of the unknown, the fear of the future, or thinking back to other things like, things that have happened and being worried about those? Do you find yourself living in one of those spaces more than the other?
I think it really depends on the day. Like I can be feeling both, but kind of both of them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You have Jacqueline is a cheerleader, so she just found out right before we do this that the team placements are going to be coming out tomorrow, which is a lot sooner than she thought they were
It
going
was
to be
supposed to be
coming out.
Memorial Day. So a little faster than expected.
So that probably brings on a little bit of anxiety. I think the first ways that I started to notice your anxious feelings were they always manifest in a stomach ache. That is her sign of,
Yeah.
and we've tried to track it, right? So We thought that maybe she had some GI issues at first, but then when I
Yeah.
started to realize this doesn't happen every day, this happens during certain situations.
Yep.
It's not knowing how to express those feelings, I believe, and they just manifest in that way of causing the stomach ache and causing that anxious feeling
And
that
it's been like that since I was in preschool.
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. It's so common. It's so common. And I think it can be extraordinarily tricky to know, is this anxiety? Is this an illness? Is this anxiety? Is this an illness? And for a long time, I worked at an elementary school, and my office happened to be right next door to the nurse. And for sure, I would say, and we would know as we learn as kids, like you said, it's been since elementary, like, or preschool, or as long as you can remember, this is how my body reacts to stress. This is how my body reacts to anxiety. And some kids have the GI, the stomach stuff. Some it's like a rapid heartbeat. Some it's the sweaty palms. But the more in touch you become with your own body and how you react to anxiety and stress and overwhelm, you can start talking back and say, oh, this is my anxiety. And it becomes even predictable. When in my work with teens and kids in the counseling space, we'll just acknowledge it and say, oh, it's the first day of school. Hey, anxiety, I knew you'd be here today. Like, of course you are. And we normalize it and know that anxiety is not something we ever want to or can eliminate from our lives, right? We just welcome it and say, thank you. Thank you. This is a sign that it's a reframe. It's this powerful reframe that if we can learn how to do this, it's so incredibly impactful to say to yourself, you know what? This is a sign I'm growing. This is a sign I'm pushing out of that comfort zone and doing something that is going to help me to grow in a new direction. Because if we think about the flip and you never feel anxiety, like we can imagine, whoa, wouldn't it be so great to never feel anxiety?
And you're never
on
really
the surface,
sorry, keep going.
yeah, I was going to say on the surface, you might say that sounds pretty good, but what's the problem with that?
You're never going to care. Because if you care about something too much, then you become anxious about it and you know that you actually care about it.
Yeah.
Like you kind of lose that sense of like I really care about this. Like I really care about cheer, so I want to do well in it.
Yes. And you want to do well and you want to be placed well. And it's like a sign that you're putting yourself out there in a bold, courageous, vulnerable way. It's awesome. You're like, wow, yes, I'm doing this. Because what happens is if we avoid anxiety and avoid the things that cause us to feel anxious and worried and nervous, the world becomes a really small place where we're not doing much. And it's kind of a sad place to be.
Your answers are amazing, and I love this conversation that we're having. Marla, do you see any emerging trends in specific to children, specific to teens in mental health that seem to kind of be rearing up more than others?
Yeah, for sure, anxiety is so common. And I love that we're having this conversation. I love that we're talking about it and that Jackie's so in touch with herself and so open, because the things that you're sharing here, and part of the reason I love your podcast so much is you are a voice for so many kids and teens who are like, I know what that's like. Yes, yes. You're giving a voice to this struggle that we're all kind of encountering and experiencing right now. And for sure, there's been an increase in anxiety for our kids, for our teens. And there's a fantastic book out about this right now called The Anxious Generation. And it really speaks to the impact of social media in particular on our kids and our teens and anxiety levels across the globe, actually.
I'm so happy you brought that up because I did want to talk about that. And my next note here is specifically about social media. because we did put this out. We told folks on Facebook and other platforms that we were going to be talking with someone who specializes in these things, and that is one of those things that came up in social media, and how to maybe get your child to disengage from some of this. And
Yeah.
I was thinking back to an episode that we did a little while ago when I asked Jacqueline what I asked you something specific to your generation,
Mhm.
right? So
Mm.
how do you think your generation is unique or different than others? And she had talked about how they don't necessarily like to text. They use Snapchat all the time, and she is not a fan of Snapchat. But there was some inherent pressure to still do it every single day, to maintain a
Yeah.
streak,
Yeah.
to go on there to catch up. I see the same face. I hope I don't embarrass you with this, right? But I
Mhm.
see the same face being taken every day. All right, like
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same picture of a half face with a slight tongue out taken almost every day just to maintain a streak to
Mhm.
show
Yeah.
something. Uh, I guess I continued to talk after I asked you the question, but
Yeah.
how do we get them to disengage, or do we need to maybe? And in your opinion, what is the answer to this? What is the balance that maybe can be struck with something such as social media?
Yeah. Well, I think for parents to hold off as long as you possibly can for the smartphones. Truly, there are some experts that say no screens till teens, right? The once you have social media, you have 24/7 access to a whole bunch of stuff. Some of it's really great and helpful, and some of it is really disturbing and really negative and awful and negatively impacts mental health and brain development and everything else. You know, the author of The Anxious Generation speaks to the fact that many of us grew up in what he considers a play-based childhood. That is how we learned how to resolve conflicts and figure out who we were in the world and just navigate life. There was so much that came out of independent play. It was the work of childhood. And what's happened now is the phones have created a phone-based childhood. And it's a very different way of growing up and navigating. And I think having open and honest discussions and dialogues about the pressures of social media, the pressures of being on your phone, um, knowing that there is a social aspect in middle school and high school. This is how kids are communicating. It's how they're connecting. And how do you do that in a way that's healthy and supports who you are as a person? And there's this comparison culture around people don't post in general their struggles. So
Absolutely.
we're seeing this picture of what looks like this beautiful situation. And it's like, we don't know what's going on inside of that person. And we also don't see them in their struggles or their challenges. And this is true, not just, I often remind adults, this is not just about teens, because guess what? All the adults out there are seeing families post on social media and the perfectly curated Christmas picture, and it's like, what? So adults are also struggling with this comparison culture. um and I think, again, referencing The Anxious Generation, what he says is we are overprotecting our kids in the real world, right? We're not giving them enough independence and enough opportunity to navigate life. But then we're underprotecting them in this social media world where they are seeing things that can't be unseen and can really damage who they are in terms of explicit sexual content or violence or things that they inadvertently are kind of stumbling upon. It's like, whoa, they don't want to see that. Their parents don't realize how readily available. There's a predatory nature online. And when you give a child a phone without safeguards, who knows what they're going to see? There's a lot of bad stuff going on. Yeah. I
You
don't
have to
know.
say about
What's
my
your
friends.
take on that?
Um, I don't really know, honestly. I think I agree but disagree at the same time. Like,
Fair.
I think that seeing those things and not I'm not saying that like I say like that can help you like grow as a person and like kind of see that this is the real world like being protected too much is not you're not actually seeing what's happening and you're not like open and like you're not intact. Like you're not I don't know how to word it. Like you're
That's
not
okay.
like
Yeah.
really like in focus with the actual world that's like happening around us. And I think when you have that like security and you're not seeing those things, then you don't really like grow as a person.
I think there's a distinction between like there's this push and pull with teens of I want my independence. Like this is developmentally appropriate. We want our kids to be like, listen, I can do that. I'm not a baby anymore. And then on the flip side, they'll often say, I'm not ready to grow up. Like it's this push pull dynamic that's really challenging and really hard. But there's also this element in the online space that is completely unsafe and inappropriate. There are adults who are predators and are looking for vulnerable kids to exploit. And it's that piece that really concerns me that no child should be confronting. And I think you in particular are fortunate because you have this relationship with your dad and you guys clearly, I know from your podcast, have open communication about life and what it's like to be a teenager, what it's like to navigate this stuff. And there's a lot of kids out there who don't have that opportunity to have that open discussion. And they maybe haven't been told, like, hey, don't give out your personal information. I'm guessing kind of from
Yes.
a common sense standpoint, what we do and what we do not do online. And it's probably been instilled in you from the moment you had that phone.
Mhm.
Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so also. We certainly have not been perfect with it. But for,
Yeah.
since the moment she had it, any type of follow or anything needed to be like approved through us, right? And all of that. So it was locked down as much as it could be.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it's loosened up a little bit because she has gained trust of
Yep.
understanding all of this and understanding how to stay safe on these platforms also. Um,
Yep.
but also like coming to us and telling us if there is something that is questionable or just putting an
Yep.
end to it right away, which I don't think
Yep.
has necessarily happened, because you
Yeah.
are really safe with these things. But yeah, there is certainly an element, and it's like you said, to understand that not everyone has a dynamic like
Right.
us or like with your mom, right? So that's
Yeah.
that is a little different in there. I
And
will say that. Go ahead.
I was just going to also add that the social media and the algorithm and all these things, they are built for you to stay online and continue the scroll and get those dopamine hits. It's intentionally done to keep us online, to keep adults and kids. And we know, you're on an app, you're on a game, and it's like, oh, let me just keep going. Let me get this, let me get that. And it's hard to disengage. And a lot of the work we need to do with our kids and teens, well, teens especially, young adults, is for them to learn how to independently navigate having a phone and recognizing, wow, if my phone is right next to me, and it's dinging the whole time I'm trying to do my homework, that is a major cause distraction, right? So even me as an adult, I have my phone almost always on do not disturb because as soon as it dings, I'm looking. Like we're all doing that. So we get to normalize that the algorithm is set up with that intention in mind. And then we need to use a structure and a system in place to get the best work out of ourselves or the best focus. That's one of the things. And a lot of times, kids are going off to college I want them to have those skills before they're out in the real world so that they know, oh, I'm in a college setting. I know how to structure my time and get my work. Yeah.
Would you agree with that, or do you have some beef with what Marla's telling you right now?
I would agree with that.
There's a lot of times where I will call her out and she'll get a little upset because she will be doing her homework and her very favorite show, Gilmore Girls, will just be playing in the background.
But I'm
And
watching it. Like it's to the fact where I can know what's happening by just listening to it because I've watched it so many times. Like
Yeah.
at this point, I'm not focusing on it. Like I'm focusing on my homework, but I need the kind of the comfort sound in like the back of my mind to like know that it's not just like silent.
Yeah. I could see certain homework tasks or things like they're a little easier. Do you find it's different if you have to do something that requires sustained, focused attention?
Sometimes,
Like,
yeah.
are there certain academic things you have to do that's like, oh, wait a minute, I can't have this distraction here?
hmm Sometimes I'll just like be like, I can't focus right now with Gilmore Girls in the background, and sometimes there's a point where I need it to focus.
I know it's hard to know, like,
yeah,
because I hear the same argument around music. Like, I just need to listen to the music. I know for me, with my brain, the way my brain processes, that would distract me. Like, I often need quiet, but that's how I work. That's how I'm internally wired. I'm a huge fan of not having phones in the bedroom because it impacts sleep. I mean, the light, the screen time, like having a way of shutting down so that your brain can get into that deep sleep and the restorative sleep is really, really helpful. So I know sometimes kids push back on that, but I'm a huge fan of not having phones in the bedrooms.
you heard it here first, so maybe we can implement that really soon.
I don't know. I don't know. But again, with that being said, when you get to college, it's like up to you. You have to figure out how to do it. And what we know with mental health and anxiety and just overall well-being, it's so critically important for teens to get rest, deep, good sleep to function at their best.
I think you are a pretty good sleeper, despite the phone definitely being in the room and me needing to tell you constantly just to put it on Do Not Disturb for the night so that there's no little buzzing sounds that are going off throughout the night,
Yeah.
even if it's screened down and it's not going to disturb you that way. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's a ton of science behind that and trying to keep that. Obviously, I'm guilty of it also too, but it is super important.
I have a question I ask everyone.
Okay. Bring it.
What is your favorite color?
Oh, good question. I'm green. I love green.
That's a
If I
good
had to
color.
pick one, yeah, I love green. I don't know.
I
I
love
think
that.
the science behind it, growth. I don't know. We could analyze how many therapists go with green. I don't know.
That is a really interesting thing to analyze. You talked about growth. Can we talk about the importance of a growth mindset and how that impacts people? I mean, anyone, right? Like we can
Yeah,
focus on teens, but really this is an anyone discussion and how important that is to embrace something like that.
I think it's huge. I think this growth mindset is the sooner we can acknowledge and embrace a growth mindset, the better, because it also speaks to the anxiety. It's about pushing outside of our comfort zone. It's about normalizing, not just normalizing, but celebrating failure. Oh, like that's something I'm still working on. The fact that you are failing at something means that you're trying, right? And no one gets to that place of success and competence without trial and failure and trial and failure and trial and failure. It's how we learn. So, and I'm forgetting, I read a lot of books and do a lot of podcasts. I don't remember. I want to say it was Sarah Blakely, but it could have been Jamie Kern Lima. One of them spoke about the fact that every day at the dinner table, their dad would say, "Tell me, what did you fail at today?" It was like this ritualized thing where they would just talk because you had to have failed at something to participate in that discussion. But it was like, yes, we fail here. And then, if you think about whether it was either both of those women have fantastic stories. Sarah Blakely is the founder of Spanx,
Mhm.
multi-billion-dollar company. And then Jamie Kern Lima wrote this amazing book called Worthy and Believe It, but she founded It Cosmetics in her living room. And she talks over and over about how she failed each and every time and then persisting through it. And that's how we grow and that's how we learn. And, she's a fantastic success story in herself too. Do you know her, Jackie? Have you heard?
I
Oh
know
my
It
goodness.
Cosmetics, but I don't know her.
Yeah, her book, both of her books I would recommend, but Believe It is about her journey of founding It Cosmetics
Mhm.
and how hard she tried to get on QVC and sell her products and how many times she was turned down over and over and over. But she's a fantastic example of a growth mindset.
I want to come back to this with you, actually. So, how do you manage your own failures? Because that is something that you do get very upset, which is okay, again, to get upset when you fail at something. Or I think sometimes that I believe, and please correct me, that sometimes you don't necessarily want to take the risk and take that leap of pushing yourself to the point of failing something.
Mhm.
Would you say that's true? So, do you fear failing, or do you feel that feeling that you get when you I'm sorry, when you fail? What is it for you?
Sometimes, but it gets to a point where I'm like, this is one thing. Like, move on from it. Like, it's not like it's it comes to a point where you have to really think about, is this that big of a deal? Like, is this one grade that I got, is this one assignment I got a bad grade on going to affect me for the rest of my day? Or am I going to see it and I'm going to think, oh, I could have done better on that, and I'm going to move on? Like, I'm not
Right.
going to let it really ruin something. Like, I'm still going to give it the validation that, oh, I could have done better on this, or I could have worked harder for this. But I'm also not going to obsess over it and let that consume me.
I tell you all the time, we discuss the power of the word yet. Just
Yeah.
yet. I try to get her to say yet all the time.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
she can't do a certain cheer skill
Yet.
yet, right?
Yet.
She
Yeah.
doesn't yet understand a math concept, and just
Yeah.
embracing that right now, maybe that's not how it is, but we're
Right.
setting up for success in the future. Like, we can celebrate the
Yes.
failure, like you said, to succeed down the road.
Mm,
And I try so hard to get her to say yet, even when she's
Yet.
very upset with me.
It's funny you say that because that's something I've been doing myself. Adding yet to, when I'm going through something or I'm trying to figure something out and it's like, oh, I'm just not there yet. But that it's really powerful. It's the language and how we speak to ourselves is so incredibly powerful because especially if I can relate to being a high achiever and wanting to do things really, really well. And that pressure that we put on ourselves, we're not giving ourselves the room or the grace to say, hey, this stuff takes a little bit to figure out. Yeah.
I just read in your last newsletter that you have survived the teen years of your children. So you
I
officially have a
have.
20-year-old. Congratulations.
Thank you.
If you could go back, and I believe maybe in my research that your oldest is 24.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So if you could go back, we'll say 15 years, and give yourself one single piece of advice, what would
Ooh.
you tell yourself?
Okay, let me put myself back in that moment.
Absolutely.
So 15 years. Okay. My son would be 9 if I did my math correctly.
Mhm.
I would tell myself to enjoy this time, to enjoy the kids, to enjoy the struggles, to not take it so seriously, like the little challenges at school, elementary school, middle school, like things work themselves out, but to be fully present and joyful because trust me, anyone who's got kids now in their 20s, it goes by so fast. I think I stressed and worried about things that weren't that important back then. Like,
Mhm.
and just appreciating
Mhm.
my kids for who they are. I mean, I did that, but I think for me to have less stress as a parent and just more fun and more joy in that time would have been lovely. Like
It's
if
so
I
easy
knew what
to
I knew now back
yeah.
then, I think that's why
Hindsight's so easy,
grandparents are
right?
so like lax. They're like,
It's so easy just to say I could have done this or I could have done that or I
yeah,
should have done this or should have done that. Um,
yes,
it is hard in the moment sometimes to just appreciate everything for what it is and just take it for what it is. It's very difficult, but it's I mean it's almost like the same thing relating back to what we talked about with anxiety. Just live in the now, right?
yes,
And just appreciate everything and just like you said, maybe it doesn't need to be all that serious all the time.
Mhm.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
can relate that to kind of parents with younger kids because they're like, "Oh my gosh, my kid got his whole sweatshirt muddy in the rain from like splashing in the puddles." But just think about that was an experience that your kid probably is going to think about for years. Say like, "Oh, I had so much fun doing that." And sometimes it's just not something that you fully need to stress over
yep,
because clothes can be clean.
yep,
Absolutely.
yep.
Yeah.
And I love how you connected that because it made me think of when you said, Jackie, about taking perspective. Like,
Mhm.
if I get a bad grade here, in that moment, it can feel so like crushing. But if we step back and look at the big picture, we're like, you know what? It's okay. This is all it's all okay. And those quote bad grades or those challenges, all they tell us is, hey, this is something for me to focus on and learn
Mm.
differently.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. At the end of the day, I think it's really about who you are as a person and what you bring to the world. Are you
Mhm.
kind? Are you a good friend? Do you uplift people and help them to feel better about who they are? Like we get to bring that. And that's the thing people remember
Yeah.
about how you show up in the world.
We have a little phrase that we use here at the end of all of our episodes. We tell people to be a nice human, and I think that you embody that
Mhm.
really.
Yeah.
Uh, you are a good friend, and you're kind to the world, and you're incredibly thoughtful in everything. We've talked about it many times.
Yeah.
You're an excellent listener. I think it's shown through here too, in all of your responses and the thoughtfulness that you've put into this.
Yeah.
Um, I have one more question, and
Okay.
then we will set you free here. Is the worst period of childhood middle school? And why is the answer yes?
We've already determined. Well, you know what's so funny about this? There are people who because I get to work with young kids, middle schoolers, college students. I spent many years in the schools in middle school. And what I will say is I love the middle school years. I love it. It is a time of self-exploration. You're figuring out who you are. There may be a little spunk to it. And it's like, we want our kids to this is a good reframe for any of those parents out there who have children who are a little snappy or talking back or challenging of authority. What a gift for those kids to enter adulthood with that discernment and with that self-confidence. We want our kids to be spirited and to be thinking really critically about the world and who they are and what's right. And it's a fantastic time of development. Adolescence, second only, this is a fact, second only to that first year of life, 0 to 1 years old. That adolescent period is this time of rapid brain development and ethics and morals and the whole thing. Here's a good question, and I'll ask you this, Zach. Would you go back? I would not. I would not do a redo on middle school or high school. I'm glad to have gone through that period of my life. It's a lot that
You
our
thanked
kids
it
are
for
navigating. What'd you say?
Thanked it and you moved on.
Yes,
Yes.
I thank that period, and it helped me get where I am now, but would I go back? No.
No, that's the same answer for me also. There is no chance that I would go back. And something that you just said made me think of, I was speaking with my own therapist about this and discussing, I won't say exactly what it was, but Jacqueline had one of those moments a couple weeks ago where she refused to do something. Just absolutely said, I am not going, I'm not doing that. And it was a tough time. I mean, I lost my cool and had that since apologized, right? Like we're all humans. When I spoke to my therapist about that, she said, oh, she's finding her voice. How
Mhm.
how good for her to be able to find her voice. And I
You
was like,
did.
what are you talking about?
You're supposed to be
It-
on my side.
I mean, she's not. She's she challenges me a lot, which I very much appreciate in that space. But I did have to reframe that and think, wow, like she is finding her voice, and good for her to be able to say that she doesn't want to do something, or not just always go along with the flow. But it is so incredibly difficult to navigate as a parent.
Yeah. Well, and what I'll say to my teen clients that I'm working with is there's probably a better way to communicate that. Like we're fine tuning the communication piece. Like a lot of times we need to soften that and develop those skills, but the underlying sentiment is usually a valid one. It's how it's coming across that we can.
Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
That we can have a voice, but also communicate a little bit better. All right.
Yeah. And it's a skill
Fantastic.
set, right? It's something we can all learn.
Absolutely. You got anything else for Marla? Thank you so much.
Thank
Really,
you.
Oh
like
my goodness.
this
Yeah,
has been
thank
amazing.
you. Thank you for having me. And again, I've had a chance to check out the podcast, and I love
Thank you.
the open communication. I love the voice that you are giving to dads and daughters and built-in besties. It's awesome. So, thank you for bringing your voices to the world and
Absolutely.
including me.
Of course. Thank you again so much. We will put all of Marla's information below in the show notes and the YouTube description. Please go check out all of her resources. We didn't talk about one, but one of those is AI and social media. Is that correct, Marla?
That's correct.
That people
Yeah.
can go look at. Go on the social
That's-
media. The videos are great, and
Thank you.
everything is linked in there also.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And
Thank
be
you.
a nice human.
And be a nice human, everybody.
We hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Be a
nice
nice
human.
human.
See you guys next week.